Welcome to my channel. Subscribe and enjoy daily stories about cheating, revenge, and relationship advice. I jolted awake, my entire body aching as though I'd been hit by a truck. The first thing I noticed was the biting cold around my wrists, metal cuffs, shackling me to the bed frame. My mind swam with confusion, struggling to piece together the fragmented memories of the night before. Through the fog of a heavy sedative, I remembered Lily's smiling face and the clinking of glasses, but the details were a blur. I tried to sit up, but the cuffs held me firmly in place. Panic surged as I twisted and turned, only succeeding in scraping my skin against the unforgiving metal. My head spun, a dull ache throbbing behind my eyes. The room was dimly lit, casting long shadows that danced on the walls as if mocking my predicament. The door creaked open, and there stood Lily, her expression a twisted blend of amusement and cruelty. She was wearing the same black dress from last night, her makeup flawless despite the early hour. Tom followed her, a smug grin plastered on his face. He looked every bit the accomplice, his eyes glinting with malicious satisfaction. "Good morning, sunshine," Lily cooed, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "What the hell is this?" I croaked, my voice weak and ragged. "Let me out of here." Tom leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Calm down, will you? You're in for a little surprise." Lily walked over to the bed, her heels clicking sharply against the wooden floor. "We thought it'd be more fun to wake you up like this. You see, we've got a little plan." "What are you talking about?" I demanded, my voice growing stronger despite the throbbing pain in my head. Tom chuckled, stepping closer. "You see, we're going to make an example of you. We've set up something special, and you're going to be the star. Everyone will know just how gullible you were to trust us." I struggled against the cuffs, my frustration mounting. "You're insane. Why are you doing this?" Lily's smile widened, but there was no warmth in it. "You had everything, and you didn't appreciate it. We're just here to teach you a lesson. Tom and I are going to have a bit of fun, and you're the main attraction." Tom's eyes flicked with a hint of something, maybe pity or regret, but it was quickly masked by his smirk. "We've got a whole day planned. Enjoy your time in the spotlight." They both laughed, a chilling sound that echoed in the small room. The door clicked shut behind them, the lock engaging with an ominous finality. I was left alone, the heavy silence pressing in on me as I tried to steady my racing heart. I had to get out. There had to be a way to free myself, to escape from whatever twisted game they were playing. I scanned the room, desperate for anything that could help me break free from this nightmarish situation. The silence of the room was almost as oppressive as the restraints on my wrists. Each minute felt like an eternity as I tried to calm my racing thoughts and devise a plan. My eyes darted around the room, searching for anything that could help me. On the nightstand next to the bed, I spotted a small metal file, a cruel twist of fate, perhaps, or simply a part of their sadistic game. I managed to maneuver the file to my handcuffed wrists, a slow and painstaking process. The metal scraped against my skin, making me wince, but I focused all my attention on the lock. My movements were careful and deliberate, trying to keep the noise to a minimum. After what felt like an eternity, I heard a faint click. The handcuffs fell away, and I rubbed my sore wrists with a mixture of relief and urgency. I quickly freed my ankles and stood up, the room spinning slightly as I steadied myself. The window was my next obstacle. It was locked, but I used the file to pry it open, the metal bending under my persistent efforts. Once it was wide enough, I climbed out onto the narrow ledge. The ground below seemed miles away, but I forced myself to move steadily, careful not to look down. When I finally reached the ground, I sprinted to my car, the engine roaring to life as if it understood the gravity of the situation. My hands trembled as I gripped the steering wheel, and I drove straight to the nearest hardware store. Inside, I grabbed tools and supplies, anything that might be useful in my escape and revenge plan. With my purchases loaded into the car, I dialed Max's number. He answered on the first ring. "Max, it's me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady despite the adrenaline. "I need your help. I've been drugged and restrained by Lily and Tom. They're planning to humiliate me. There was a brief pause before Max responded, his voice a mix of concern and determination. All right, I'm on my way. I'll be there as soon as I can. What do you need? I need you to help me set up surveillance and find a way to gather evidence, I explained. I also need you to contact Rita. She's got legal connections that might be useful. I'll take care of it, Max said. Just hang tight. Next, I called Rita. She answered groggily, clearly not expecting to be woken up so early. Rita, it's me, I said, urgency in my voice. I need your help. Lily and Tom have drugged and restrained me. I've escaped, and I need to set up a trap to catch them in the act. Her voice sharpened with concern. What happened? Are you all right? I'm okay, just shaken, I said. I need you to help with the legal side of things. We're going to set up a hidden recorder to catch their confessions. Understood, Rita replied. I'll be there as soon as I can. We'll make sure they pay for this. With everything in motion, I made my way back to the house, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. When Max arrived, he brought with him a range of surveillance equipment and an air of quiet confidence. All right, let's get to work, Max said, his eyes scanning the house. We need to set up the recorder where they won't see it. Rita arrived shortly after, her professional demeanor a calming presence. She checked the legalities of our plan, ensuring that everything was above board. I've arranged everything with the local authorities, she said. Once we have their confessions, we'll have a solid case. We worked efficiently, placing the hidden recorder in a strategic location where Lily and Tom wouldn't suspect a thing. As we finished, I felt a surge of hope. We were on the verge of turning their cruel game against them. This is our chance, Max said, his voice steady. Let's make sure they get what's coming to them. With the setup complete, I waited anxiously, knowing that the next steps would determine the outcome of our plan. The trap was set, and all that remained was to lure Lily and Tom into our carefully laid snare. The hours seemed to crawl as we waited for the right moment to set our plan into motion. The house was quiet, the tension palpable as we prepared to put our trap into action. Max and Rita were focused, their expertise turning what could have been a chaotic endeavor into a well-oiled operation. We need to make sure everything is perfect, Max said, adjusting the placement of the hidden recorder. If they catch a hint of what we're doing, we might lose our chance. Rita nodded, her sharp eyes scanning the room. The recorder is in place. It should capture everything without being noticed. Now, we need to make sure Lily and Tom show up. I've got a plan, I said, my voice filled with resolve. I'll call Lily and pretend like I want to talk things over. It'll make her think she's won, and she'll come right to us. Rita glanced at me with a mix of concern and support. Be careful. They're likely to be on edge, especially if they think you're onto them. I took a deep breath and picked up my phone, dialing Lily's number. It rang twice before she answered, her voice dripping with false cheerfulness. Hello. What do you want? She asked. Lily, it's me, I said, trying to keep my tone calm and conciliatory. I've been thinking things over, and I want to discuss everything. Can we meet? There was a pause on the other end, a shift in the silence that told me Lily was considering her next move. Sure, she said finally, her voice laced with suspicion but tinged with eagerness. Where do you want to meet? Let's keep it simple, I replied. Just come to my place. We can talk here. As soon as I hung up, Max and Rita moved into position. Max set up the final pieces of the surveillance equipment, making sure everything was functioning perfectly. Rita reviewed the legal documents, ensuring that all evidence gathered would hold up in court. An hour later, the sound of Lily's car pulling into the driveway signaled that our plan was about to unfold. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the flutter of nerves in my stomach. Max and Rita took their positions, ready to document everything. The doorbell rang, and I opened it to find Lily and Tom standing on the doorstep, their faces a mix of anticipation and arrogance. Lily's eyes flicked around the room, her gaze sharp and calculating. Tom stood slightly behind her, his expression more guarded. "Welcome," I said, stepping aside to let them in. "Please, come in." Lily and Tom entered, their presence filling the room with a tense energy. They settled into the living area, their demeanor relaxed but watchful. I took a seat opposite them, forcing a casual tone. "So, what do you want to talk about?" Lily asked, her eyes narrowing slightly. "I wanted to clear the air," I said, forcing a smile. "I've had time to think, and I realize now that we should have had this conversation earlier." Tom leaned forward, a glimmer of interest in his eyes. "Oh. And what's changed?" I kept my voice steady. "I think it's important to understand each other's perspectives. You wanted to make a point, and I want to make sure we're all on the same page." As I spoke, I noticed Lily's expression changing, a mix of suspicion and impatience crossing her face. She leaned in closer, seemingly eager to hear what I had to say. "What exactly are you trying to get at?" she asked, her tone clipped. I took a deep breath, knowing that the recorder was capturing every word. "I just wanted to hear your side of the story. I want to understand why you thought this was necessary." Lily's eyes flicked to Tom, who gave a slight nod. "Fine," she said, her voice tinged with satisfaction. "If you really want to know, we did this because you needed a lesson." Tom added, "You were always so self-righteous. We thought it would be fun to show you how it feels to be on the other side." The conversation continued, with Lily and Tom revealing more about their twisted motivations and plans. Each confession was a piece of evidence, capturing the full extent of their scheme. I watched them with a mix of grim satisfaction and resolve, knowing that soon, they would be facing justice. As the meeting drew to a close, Lily and Tom left with an air of triumph, unaware of the trap that had been set. Max and Rita were quick to dismantle the surveillance equipment and prepare the evidence for submission. "We did it," Max said, his voice tinged with relief. They were too confident to realize they were walking into a trap. Rita nodded, her expression a mix of satisfaction and exhaustion. "Now, we need to get this evidence to the authorities and make sure they face the consequences of their actions." With the trap successfully set and the evidence secured, I felt a sense of accomplishment. The next steps would be crucial, but for now, we had taken a significant step toward justice. The courtroom was a sea of faces, the air thick with anticipation. I sat among a small group of spectators, my gaze fixed on the front of the room where the proceedings were unfolding. The atmosphere was charged with tension, each moment drawing us closer to the climax of this long and painful journey. Lily sat at the defense table, her composure unshaken despite the gravity of the situation. She was impeccably dressed, her demeanor a calculated mask of confidence. Tom, on the other hand, sat beside her, his face a canvas of nervous anxiety. His eyes darted around the room, betraying his unease. Rita and Max were seated behind me, their presence a comforting reminder that I wasn't alone in this fight. Rita was flipping through her legal notes, her focus sharp and unwavering, while Max surveyed the room with a steely gaze. The judge, a stern man with a no-nonsense attitude, called the court to order. "We are here today to hear the case against Lily and Tom, who stand accused of kidnapping, assault, and conspiracy. The prosecution will now present its case." I watched as the prosecution team called their first witness. The moment Tom took the stand, the courtroom fell into a hush. He looked more like a man on trial than a mere witness, his shoulders hunched as he faced the judge. "Mr. Thompson," the prosecutor began, "please describe for the court your involvement in the events leading up to this trial." Tom swallowed hard, his voice trembling as he spoke. "I was involved in planning the scheme against the victim. Lily was the mastermind. She manipulated me into helping her by threatening to ruin my life." Lily's expression remained calm, but her eyes flickered with irritation. "Liar," she mouthed, though she kept her voice low enough that it didn't carry. The prosecutor pressed on. "Can you detail what you and Lily planned and how it was carried out?" Tom glanced nervously at Lily before continuing. We drugged him and restrained him. The idea was to humiliate him and make him suffer. Lily said it would teach him a lesson for not appreciating what he had." The courtroom buzzed with murmurs at Tom's admissions. Lily's facade began to crack, her composure slipping as the evidence of her cruelty was laid bare. The prosecutor presented the hidden recordings, playing excerpts that captured Lily and Tom's confessions in their own words. As the audio played, Lily's face flushed with a mix of anger and embarrassment. The recordings painted a clear picture of their deliberate cruelty and premeditated actions. Each confession was a blow to her carefully crafted image. When the recordings ended, Rita stood to address the court. Her voice was steady and authoritative as she summarized the case. The evidence presented shows beyond a reasonable doubt that Lily and Tom conspired to cause harm to the victim. Their actions were calculated, cruel, and aimed at achieving personal gratification at the expense of another's dignity and well-being. Lily's lawyer attempted a last-ditch effort to discredit the evidence, but it was clear that the case against her was overwhelming. The judge listened intently, his expression unreadable as he weighed the arguments. After a lengthy deliberation, the judge delivered his verdict. The court finds the defendants, Lily and Tom, guilty on all counts of kidnapping, assault, and conspiracy. A wave of relief washed over me as the gavel came down. Lily's face twisted in anger and disbelief as the realization sank in. She shot a venomous glance in my direction, but I met her gaze with a steady resolve. This was the moment of justice I had been fighting for. The courtroom erupted in a mix of applause and quiet conversations, the weight of the verdict settling over the room. Max clapped a supportive hand on my shoulder, and Rita gave me a reassuring smile. "You did it," Max said, his voice filled with pride. "We did it," Rita nodded, her eyes reflecting a mix of satisfaction and exhaustion. "This is just the beginning of putting things right. The legal system has done its part, but it's up to us to move forward." As the courtroom emptied and Lily and Tom were led away, I felt a profound sense of closure. The nightmare was over, and justice had prevailed. With Max and Rita by my side, I knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but I was ready to face it with a newfound strength and determination.